guys, it's Megan. I am working on rebranding myself because I've had zero inspiration to make videos for years, as you have seen on my channel, and it's just, it's something I really do love doing. So I'm gonna do it about something that I like rather than just a whole bunch of random things. So yeah, let's get right into it. I guess my whole rebranding is gonna be mostly about books, but it might go into TV show, movies, pretty much fandom, because it's something that I really, really love and something that I don't know, I could talk for days about it. Excuse the bells in the background, that would be my cats scratching themselves. So today I'm going to talk about my reading journey because reading was my introduction into fictional worlds, as with most people. Yeah, I watched TV shows as a kid and things like that, but reading is what really, I fell in love with reading because it was something that, you get to imagine as you're reading. It's not something that you are given the view of. You get to imagine what these things look like as they're being described to you by the author. So let's just hop right into my reading journey. I'm 25 years old, so I've been reading a really, really long time because I taught myself to read. I can't remember how old I was. I think I was either 3 or 4, but I taught myself to read. And then I just loved reading. It was mostly, picture books back then, of course. But then in kindergarten, when I was 6, I was gifted the first Harry Potter book as a birthday gift. And I started reading that. So I was reading Harry Potter at 6 years old and I just loved it. And from then on, I just kept reading. In 3rd grade, I remember my teacher, Mrs. Hansler, gave me the Chronicles of Narnia books. And because she knew that I was a little bit ahead of my classmates and she didn't want me to get stuck reading the chapter books that my classmates were reading, she wanted me to get a little bit more enrichment out of that. So she gave me the Chronicles of Narnia books and I loved them. I only remember reading the first 2. I may have read more, I don't remember though. And then I just kept picking up books and reading, and I would read everything and anything. I read things that were below my reading level, as they tell you what you have, and above my reading level, obviously. But I remember my favorites were the Magic Treehouse books when I was really little. I have so many of them. I can't even tell you how many of those I have. Harry Potter, obviously. I was cyber schooled for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And on top of our regular literature books that we had to read for class, my mom asked us to continue reading for fun because she knew, my brother and I, she knew that we loved reading. So I ended up reading the Maximum Ride books at that point by James Patterson. Loved those. And then it must have been when I was homeschooled. So I was homeschooled 9th and 10th grade. And I started reading adultier things, Twilight, so young adult. Twilight, the Vampire Academy books, the spin-off of the Vampire Academy books, the Bloodlines books. This is one of them. I just kept reading for fun. I would pick up anything and everything. I don't know if it was middle school or high school, but my mom had me start reading the Stephanie Plum novels by Janet Evanovich. I loved reading, so I would read everything and anything. And then high school came. I went back to high school in 11th and 12th grade, and I didn't read as much. Didn't really do extracurriculars, but I had friends to hang out with. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I had friends, but my best friends were books. And then Stephanie, if you know me from the M&S show, Stephanie and I have been friends since 7th grade. So that's kind of when I stopped reading constantly, but I still read a lot until 11th grade. When I was homeschooled, my mom would require us to read, I think she picked 3 or 4 literature books and based our reading literature class around that. And then she also required us to continue reading for fun like she did when we were cyber schooled. And we read between 50 and 100 books. So that was something that I loved. We would just pick out books. When we were homeschooled, and cyber school, we went to a homeschool group, and that was every Wednesday. And I don't remember how many times it came, but there was a bookmobile that came, which is pretty much just a library on a big renovated bus. And we could borrow books like from a library. And that was like one of my favorite days. I used to take out, I think 2 or 3 books every time. Really loved that. In high school, I had a class. My senior year, I had an English class, and I loved everything we read in that class. We read everything from The Great Gatsby, Death of a Salesman, all of that stuff. Oh, what was the other one? The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. They were so good. Like, it wasn't my typical what I would read, but it was something that I really did enjoy reading. So that was pretty awesome to be able to have my eyes open to books that I would not have picked for myself. And then, like I said, when I went back to high school, I didn't read as much. I didn't have time, but I mean, I really didn't, because we had a lot of homework, and then I had to make time for friends, and then, you know, football games, things like that. So it was just something that was moved to the back burner. Then freshman year of college came, and I was reading a little bit more again. I know I was reading the Blue Plague series by Thomas Watson. Those are adult books. They are, I think they're dystopian is what it's called. It was amazing. I would highly recommend those. The entire series is so great. I almost stopped completely reading for fun. Oh, no. Freshman year, I started reading John Green. I read The Fault in Our Stars, which, oh my gosh. Paper Towns, I loved Paper Towns. I am jumping all over the place, so I really apologize. There's so much that I'm remembering that I had totally forgotten about. Sophomore year, I had transferred to a different college, and when I went to that college, I was a lot more involved in things. I joined a sorority. I got on-campus jobs. Like, I was just constantly doing. I was always on the move. I was a science major, so I was always in the lab. I literally never had time for anything. But I occasionally would try to make time to read, and, you know, it never stuck because of that. And then senior year, I wanted to get back into reading, because senior year, which surprisingly was my easiest, I just had a little bit more time. So I decided, okay, let me start reading again. But then February of 2017, my spring semester, I'm like 3 months away from graduating, I got a concussion. For those of you who have never had a concussion, it really throws you for a loop. And for those of you who have, I understand the struggle that you go through. I had to go through physical therapy, occupational therapy. I had a very hard time focusing. I had a major light sensitivity issue, constant headaches. I had a lot of problems from my concussion at this point. And just reading, focusing on a book was not easy for me, so I could not do it. Then I graduated, still not reading so much, but in June of 2017, I started a master's program, which was entirely online, and I just still didn't have time for reading for fun. At least that's what I told myself. And then in October, I had gotten another concussion, but I also started working at a bookstore in October, and that kind of helped me remember, oh yeah, I really love reading. Why don't I do that anymore? So I started reading again, because we were able to borrow books from the bookstore like a library. And at that point, I read Turtles All the Way Down, which was brand new by John Green, and the 100 series. Cass Morgan wrote the 100 series, and I loved those. They were so good, but then I just kind of stopped. I moved in with my boyfriend, now husband, in Maryland. I was still working at the same chain bookstore, but it was a different store, obviously. And it just wasn't something that I felt like doing anymore. I didn't feel like reading. I worked so much that I felt like exhausted, and I just didn't want to. I wanted to shut my brain off, and I just wanted to chill. I didn't want to, which makes no sense because I love reading. So I don't know why I felt that way. And then I got a job at a law firm, and I again felt like I had no time to read, because it was just a full-time job. I only worked 40 hours a week, which I'm saying only, that's a normal job. It's not overwhelming, but I think I was just not in the right place in my mind to be reading again. So I wasn't reading. I kind of just gave up on trying to read again. I think that I just felt that I did not have the time to read because I was an adult now. I had a real job and I wasn't used to that. As a kid, I didn't have to worry about anything. Even in college when I was super busy, I had two or three on-campus jobs. I had my sorority and it felt more exhausting to be working a 40-hour week as a college graduate rather than in college. I was in a slump. I wasn't feeling it. So I was in that slump for a long time. I just really struggled to get into anything, even books that I loved. The Vampire Academy books, the Harry Potter books even, like I struggled to get into those. And then this year, 2021, sometime in the spring, I don't know exactly when, I stumbled into the book talk world, and it reminded me why I loved reading. Seeing people talk about the books they liked, it reminded me why I loved reading, and I was like, okay, I gotta start reading. And the #1 series I saw everybody talking about, not everybody, but I guess I ended up on that side of TikTok, was A Court of Thorns and Roses. I was going to Barnes & Noble like every other week or so with my husband, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna start reading. Let me start stocking up on books I haven't read yet to try to get myself back into reading. And that week I was like, okay, let's go. I am getting A Court of Thorns and Roses. It sat on my shelf for probably 2 weeks before I had the nerve to pick it up because I was afraid of not liking it. And I read it in like, I don't know, 2 days. I would get off of my computer, sit on the couch, and just read. And I did that for the day after work one day, and then the next day I read it until 2 a.m. when I finished it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need the next one. So then we went to Barnes & Noble again, either later that week or the next week, I don't remember, and I got the rest of the series all at the same time because I knew I was gonna have to read the whole thing. I read the second one, A Court of Mist and Fury, in probably 2 or 3 days total. It was a busier week of mine, but I was also going to my grandparents that weekend, so I knew I'd have time to read there. And then the third one, I started reading the day I got back from my grandparents that Sunday, and I read until like, I don't know, 3, 4 a.m., and I read the whole thing in that one day. I needed to hear the story. I needed to keep reading. The next one, which is the little baby one, which is A Court of Frost and Starlight, I read that in, I don't know, like 3 hours. That one's very small compared to the rest of them. And then I kind of stopped because I found out that A Court of Silver Flames wasn't based on Feyre. It wasn't like her story. It was her sister Nesta. And I was like, ugh, I don't want to read this. But then I started reading it. I read like a chapter one day, and I was like, okay. But then I was like, no, this is part of the series. I need to do it. So I picked up the book and I read the rest of it again until like 3 or 4 a.m. in one day. And it was good. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't great because I just fell so in love with Feyre's story, but it was still amazing. And it was still part of the story that I think really did need to be told there. And that's where I am now. I am currently rereading the series because I just need to pick up on things that I hadn't picked up on the first time. But yeah, I'm very excited to tell you that I am out of my reading slump. I have all of these books. Not those. Those are my husband's books. All of these are books I have not yet read that I am going to be reading at some point. I'm sure that list will grow very, very, very much because I can't resist. I hope that you can relate to my story if you are coming from, if you're a book lover, that's how you found me. So I hope you can relate to my story about the love of reading. If you've come from a reading slump, I hope you get out of it. I can't believe I ever stopped reading because I just love it so much. So yeah. If you have any questions or any book recommendations or you know, anything you want me to maybe talk about in future videos, leave it in the comments. Please like my video and subscribe if you want more book and or fandom content. I'm all over the place. I have so many different interests in fandoms and things like that. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.